So everybody, welcome to True House Stories. This week, we tend to focus our cameras onto the capital of house music. Again, Chicago, Illinois. Some of you know this is a town where a lot of great talent was created. A sound was born and became the sound of a generation. And we are now one of our forefathers, our founders of this game. He was right there when the shovels were breaking ground, with Frankie and all of them. And this man's name is Byron Stingily, and his voice is synonymous. At first known for the group 10 City, then went on his own as Byron Stingily, the artist, and had huge success with that. And now back, as they say, 180 degree back and turn back around to 10 City now. He's going to talk about all that stuff, new albums, everything he's done. He's even has a son that was professional, two of them actually, that play professional football. And I'll tell you, you talk about success as a dad, husband, I'll tell you about the occupation he's doing, all that good stuff. I don't want to ruin the monologue. I want him to tell you. So please let us all help to welcome Mr. Byron Stingily. Yeah. Byron.
Sound effect for the cheers, like Howard Stern and all of that. Yeah, man.
I don't have that yet. Budget doesn't allow me, but we're getting there. I got to talk to the people in budgeting. So everybody's stepping up in and the numbers are starting to raise, and thank you. I got him to do this, and he said, yeah, I could do it, because every time I've asked him for different dates, he hasn't been able due to other things that he had to do. And I'm going to say it like this, Byron. I'm going to start off with happy Thanksgiving to everyone around the world and all servicemen and everybody. And thank God we got through this election, and hopefully we can get this COVID under control soon. And everyone, remember, keep wearing those masks. But for that, pause on that.
We got to electric. I heard it's still going on. They're doing counts and everything. And
yeah, well, there's something going on today. They got this thing in Gettysburg. I don't know. It's like every day is another thing. It's craziness.
Yeah.
So the first question I ask every guest is, as a young man, young kid, how does music find a young Byron Stingily?
Music found me by I was a huge music fan. I used to imitate people even as a little kid. When I first could start talking and walking, I used to imitate, showing my age, artists like Chubby Checker. I would do the twist and sing the twist and all of that, and Elvis Presley imitations. And then there was a group around the Chicago area called the Jackson 5. And I used to imitate a young Michael Jackson back when, even before their Motown days. They would show them on local shows in Chicago, this new group. And I just said, that's what I want to do. And I did a mean Michael Jackson impersonation as a kid.
Really? I didn't know this. I didn't know you were an impersonator as well. I've got to put that to list.
Yeah, not the skinny Mike that did all, the little, when he was doing.
So which Michael were you? Which part? Which?
I was a kid, like Santa Claus coming to town. I was that. I could do that, Mike.
And you still can. That's crazy.
Yeah, I used to love that Mike, and I just knew that was something I wanted to do. And I actually had a really good gift as a kid. I could hear somebody sing, and I could do a spot on impersonation of almost any singer. A lot of times, even male and female singers. So I guess I would have been great in a cabaret show or something like that. I could have been on RuPaul's show.
Who was the person that you felt most comfortable always impersonating? Everybody say, "Oh, Byron, you do so great, Byron."
The person that people I used to do a really good Philip Bailey impersonation when Earth, Wind and Fire. When Philip Bailey joined Earth, Wind and Fire, Earth, Wind and Fire had been around for a while too. They were a local group out of Chicago, and when Philip Bailey joined them, that's when they really took off. But I could do a really good spot on. Eddie Kendrick's impersonation, Philip Bailey, the stylistics, all the falsettos. It was a group called Enchantment, like with songs like Gloria. I could do that, and Curtis Mayfield. But Eddie Kendricks was like my favorite. Keep on trucking, girl. You need to change your mind. Going up in smoke. Could go on and on. Date with the Rain. You know, all his kind of club joints I love.
Were you musically trained, professionally speaking?
I wasn't professionally trained in music, but I played drums as a kid. I played my first instrument was guitar, and I played like a lot of, believe it or not, like folk songs, like Bob Dylan and stuff like that. I played a lot of that on the guitar and would do my own versions of it as a kid. And so guitar, drums, and then when Prince came along with like a lot of the synth sounds, I started playing in bands, and I played keyboards in bands and things like that.
Can you imitate Prince at all? People are asking me already to say, because since he's an
of course I could imitate Prince. My favorite Prince song was Adore. Until the end of time, I'll be there for you. You are my heart and mind. I truly adore you. If God one day struck me blind, your beauty I still see. Love's too weak to define just what you mean to me. Yeah, I love Prince.
Oh, thank you. I remember. Well, we'll get into that in a moment about when you had your surgery.
I got a really good Prince story. So we were doing 10 City was doing a show in Miami. It was like had to have been about 92, 93. We were doing a show, and we did our sound check, and we come back and we're getting ready to perform, and all of this music equipment is set up on the stage where we're supposed to perform. And I'm asking the club owner, man, where did this crap come from? Can you it's like Hammond organs, drums. I said, could you please take this crap off the stage? How can we perform with all this stuff on here? And he just was kind of chuckling. No, you're gonna have to perform around it. And I'm not really somebody that kicks up a whole lot of mess, but I was like, this is messed up. This is really, really messed up. And so go on and perform, and kind of had to stand in place and perform. And then we get almost to our last song, and the club owner calls me over to the side of the stage. He said, I want to come out and make a quick announcement. I said, come on, all right, fine. He comes out and says, I don't want anybody to leave the stage leave the club after 10 City performs. I have a special presentation for the audience here, and I don't want anybody to leave. I'm doing something special for you all tonight. Please don't leave. And so we do our last song, hit the last note. Prince and his band come running out the back of the club, hop on stage, and they perform, and the crowd went nuts. They went absolutely nuts. And he performed like the song Get Off, Diamonds and Pearls, Cream, all the songs that was on on the album Diamonds and Pearls. And that was really and I was like, wow, Prince chose like one of our shows to showcase his new album, and I thought that was really cool.
Mention to you, I think they should have mentioned to you that all the band and everybody was there, that you were going to perform. Don't wig out on us. Stay cool. We got Prince here on the down low, but you got to go stand there and do your show, and then
it felt like I was doing a show in the closet.
Sidestep, right? You felt like the sidestep feeling, right?
Yeah.
But not to be funny, before we can get to that, what year was that, and what level was that 10 City at? You already had the gold album by that point?
We had several gold albums by that point.
So why should you be Stepchild?
Yeah, but we weren't on Prince level. But we had several gold albums, and we had gold in South Africa, had songs were on numerous gold and platinum compilation albums. We had one #1 record with That's the Way Love Is, and we had just left Atlantic and had just signed to Columbia Records at the time.
Okay. That, and to us, you are our Prince. You know what I'm saying? You in dance music, you are that guy. You are stylistics. We've all said that to you always. You are that high, level guy, and that group that crossed out of the club scene and made it big. There's not many that I could say. You're one of the few. But before we go even that far, and that's a compliment to you and what you accomplished. Let's go back a little bit in time. Let's talk about high school. Let's talk about the Chicago situation, music, what that was like for you at that time, and coming up before you even meet Marshall. Because I know there was a band called Ragtime that you were involved in as well. So,
yeah, but even before that, I was in a group called Dead Seven. I had a group called the Black Pearl, which was kind of like a new wave band that I played in. I actually got offered a record deal with CBS Records right out of high school. And at that time, I turned it down. I decided to go to college, and everybody told me I was making a huge mistake, that I should have took the record deal then. But education was very important to me at the time, and I want to finish college and then at least have that, and then start really pursuing my music career. And so. And I'm kind of glad I did.
Before you do that, but what was the educational ending for you in your mind? If it wasn't music, what were you going to be majoring in for the education side?
I got a degree in psychology. I got a degree in psychology. I was one or two classes from having a minor in theology, and so basic I guess humanitarian type of classes, and doing with the social field,
Okay, so then now we pick up from that point. So you went and put the pause in CBS, and you go Black Pearls, and take us on that journey. Go ahead.
Well, I was playing in a band, and we were known throughout Chicago, and people used to like to book us because they could tell us we could play anything. And I'm not just saying this to be you could ask us to come and say, hey, we want some Prince, and we could do Prince and sound. And the band would actually probably kick the Revolution band in the butt. Prince was dynamic. Can nobody touch him? But the band, I think note for note could match the Revolution. I really believe that. No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of them, but I'm just saying the band was really good, and people used to like to book us. I remember one time, they booked us, and they said, hey, one of the guys said, this crowd likes blues. Okay, I'll give you some blues then. She had one leg in the east or one leg in the west. I was there in the middle trying to do my best. And the crowd was going nuts. I could do the blues they were like, wow, they could do blues, they could do rock. And so it was just fun doing, for those that, I hope none of my students was watching and heard me just say that.
I thought that was great. They're going, all right. It reminds me of that movie where in what the hell was it? John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and they're telling them, "You guys play country? Oh yeah, we play country," and they play that same damn song, "Roll High." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was exactly like that. We used to have to
all night long, and they throwing bottles at them, and they're playing Rawhide for 5 hours. People didn't care.
Yeah, got that too. So I was in a band. We had quite a good reputation. Had some good friends, and we even got invited to do some clubs in Mississippi. Somebody booked us to do some clubs in Mississippi one time, and that went up to Minneapolis, and it was just good times, traveling, trying to make it,
So in the Midwest, so you were basically somebody like D-Train told me when he came up at the time, he was doing the Chitlin circuit. Would that be similar?
Oh, I definitely did the Chitlin circuit when I would come home from college during the summer. Would go and do shows with this band I had doing, like you said, Chitlin circuit shows, but I was also a club kid. there was a scene here in Chicago where they played. It was a radio show where they played dance, nothing but dance music. Herb Kent had a show, and they would come on at night, and everybody would sit up and wait for him to. He played dance music certain nights, so that people would set their tape recorders to record the show, and he played dance ranging from groups like B-52's Rock Lobster, Mesopotamia, and groups out of England like State Farm and Yazoo, and was it Move Out and Don't Mess, all those kind of records.
Don't mess around, all those club tunes he was rocking.
Play that along with groups like D-Train and stuff on Prelude and Lil Evelyn King. So it was like all the best of dance music, and they would announce where a party was going to be that weekend, and so people would listen to the show and be lined up trying to get in these little small intimate clubs, and it was like just a whole new world. And it was, people were having a good time. You could be safe in there. Wasn't any fighting or anything like that. People just come in. The dance music, just the vibe of it at that time was just a really safe, fun time for young people. You never had to worry about a fight or anything like that when you went to these clubs, and just really fun times.
See, people don't get that. They thought, like where we went and partied was like hoodie or it was rough. It was never like that in our clubs.
No, what's so funny is I remember one time, I was my nickname probably should have been Friend Zone as a kid, because all the girls liked me, but I was like all the girls best friend, best buddy, and so I would go to parties and meet girls, and they were all like, oh, that's Byron, he's our friend, and they would all come by the house, and I lived in the hood, and my buddies would from the hood would be like, hey, let's talk to you. What you got going on, man? Where are all these girls that come through to come see you? Where are they coming from?
Why?
What? Yeah. So, and I had to explain to them. I was like, hey, man, they're like, I meet them at the house music, and not to be funny, they was like, I thought only gay guys listen to house music. It's like, no, that's not true. It's like some everybody.
So let's talk about where you live. Are you in the south side of Chicago at that time, Levin?
I grew up on the west side of Chicago. I grew up. Yeah.
So explain to people, when you talk about the guys from the projects or the hood, what were they into? What was the scene like, around you? What's going on? You're going to house parties, but what they into? So they don't know anything about house music.
You had two scenes. They were into some of the rap, that was starting at the time, KRS-One, Eric B. and Rakim. But, this was actually a little before that, but they were into more R&B and things like that. And what we had in Chicago, it was another tempo of music, was more urban, we call it stepping music. They were into stepping and things like that. I'm trying to, believe it or not, what's my man named? Cat Stevens had a big stepping record in Chicago, and it was called Was a Dog a Donut? And don't. And everybody used to, I think you all call it hustling, but it was slower and
right. That's exactly hustling. Right. Yep.
And the guys in my hood, a lot of them had the finger waves. I don't know, you don't know nothing about finger waves, Lenny, but they had finger waves, what we call butter and perms and things like that. And I
remember seeing it. I know what it is. I don't have it, but I know what it is. I remember. In other words, they use a lot of relaxer.
Yeah, they was real relaxed. Yeah.
A lot of relaxer. And what was that, Soul Glow? They use it to hook it up.
That was later. That was Jerry curls and stuff. Somebody's talking about a fight broke out at the music box. I'm trying to see who that was.
I told you they're talking to us. Many nights they said fights kept this, so let's keep it real. There was fights there. Okay, look, there was fights always at these spots, but not like in hip hop clubs and stabbing.
Nobody get stabbed and all of that kind of stuff and glass. I don't know. I I didn't see too many fights, but
so as you,
so I had to be both worlds. I had to, because where I live, I had to know how to bop and step and all of that too.
that's the bomb. That's what I'm talking about. Keeping it real, finger waves. I love that. In the hair, I could see it.
For people don't notice, my hair is when I had hair, my hair is naturally curly. So it's so funny. I just ran into a girl who I went to high school with. She's like, I really liked you, but you was wearing that Jerry curl long after Jerry curl played out. And I was like, I didn't have a Jerry curl. My hair was naturally curly. Like, stop playing. You had an S curl. I didn't like guys with S curls. So anyhow.
Trying to think what Chuck Berry, not Chuck, yeah, Chuck Berry had curly hair too. Not Chuck Berry. Was it Chuck Berry the one that played the guitar?
Yeah.
He had pretty curly hair too.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know, but I do remember you having hair a long time ago when you first started with Ted Say. I do remember that. That I do.
Yeah, I was you know, as a teenager, I had hair and stuff, man. Like, you know,
that's later. You went with that, you know, that Shaft look, Isaac Hayes. That's later.
Yeah. I got tired because it kept going back further and further, and I had to what they call
receding.
Yeah, I didn't like how it looked.
All right, so now on the timeline of Byron Stingley, we're knowing that he's doing Chitlin Circuit. He's in education. He's doing that. He's going into clubs. What year was the club scene for you really breaking out?
The club scene in Chicago broke out in the early 80s. Like I said, D-Train and all those Prelude and records and like that, and West End, those records was hitting in Chicago. And around about 84, 85, people in Chicago started dabbling with their own kind of little productions. Some of the first people to really dib and dab was Jamie Principle, you know, with Your Love and Bad Boy and records like that. And then, of course, Jesse Saunders did a track called On, and he put it out. And once he put that out, it was on and popping. Others like were around at the time, like Chippy was doing his thing. It's time to jack, doo, 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 doo. And they would play that like at the music box, and they would go nuts, like it's house, house, and they would just jump around, slam dance on the floor. It was something to see. The energy in there was really something.
Where does that word jacking come from? Where does that, for people that we've heard that it's time to jack, and where does that come from?
Well, it's like when they used to dance, they would kind of jump around like that, and people like start to describe it like that they were jacking. And so then, you know, Steve Hurley did a song called Jack Your Body, you know, jack your body, jack your body, you know, and it's time to jack. And that's what they just started labeling it as. It was a style of dance. They called it jacking.
Yeah, because before that, including in New York, nobody knew it as house music. We just knew it as like dance music or R&B dance music. We never said house music.
A lot of people have different versions of different ways of how it started, but from people used to come in, like Frankie would play stuff at the warehouse, and people would come in to this store called Imports and ask like, hey, I want, Frankie played this record and went like this. So they created their own section in there. They had the Euro Imports of records, but they created a section, and they just shortened it from warehouse to like people that come in looking for that. They labeled, like put a sign on the bin, said all the house records over here. And that's kind of like what I give the origins of it to. And people, it stuck. People start calling it house music. And like, I remember like the first person to really get me into doing house music was Vince Lawrence. He came to me one day and he was like, he kind of gave me this like, hey, let's take over the world type speech. And I was like, what are you talking about, Vince? And he was like, no, you're a club kid. You're always in the club. You're always dancing. You're at all the parties. And he said, you do music. Why are you doing R&B? Why are you doing new wave? Let's all do this house music together, create our own sound. And you know, we could be the innovators of this, and we could be at the forefront and the pioneers of this, and we're going to create our own movement. And then I was like, wow, sounds good to me. And he really convinced me, because I did love club music, but the problem was like, I never saw a lot of the club artists on Soul Train. I never saw them on American Bandstand or shows like that. And he was like, hey, we're going to be the first. Just like Prince got his Minneapolis sound, we're going to create this Chicago sound. And I was like, I'm with it. And then it's a funny story, but I went back to college, and Vince called me and was like, you know, he called me and was like, hey, man, when you coming back, we need to do some records. And I was like, what's going on? And he told me Jesse and Vince had did a record like Fast Cars. They did another record called Those Pretty Girls. They had another one called Real Love. And they were playing it on the radio in Chicago, like heavy rotation, their records. And he was like, he said, me and Jesse, and I misheard him. I'm had to misheard him, because it sounded like he said, me and Jesse both just bought Ferraris. And like, I went to the admissions office, and I put in transfer papers, and I was downstate in school. I transferred back home to go to a like smaller college by the house, because he was like, get home. I said, they got Ferraris, you know. And when I got home, the first person I see who pulls up at the club is Vince in a Pontiac Fiero.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Wait a minute, a Fiero? You just
he
said
pulled up in a Pontiac,
the two-seater, that 84, 85 Fiero.
Fiero. He pulled up in that, and I was sitting there like, that ain't a Ferrari, that's a Fiero. And I was like, hey, Vince, my man, I thought you told me you got a Ferrari. He said, no, I said Fiero, man. You must have heard me wrong. So I don't know if I heard him wrong.
I don't mean to laugh. I know where you're coming from, because I would have did the same thing. I would have been like, yo, you said Ferrari.
And then Jesse pulls up in a Fiero right next to him, and they both had Pontiac Fieros,
and living it, feeling it, right?
And so he was like, well, you're back home now, so let's get it cracking. Let's get started on this house music. I was like,
all right. So, it sounds like the story of when guys we know talk about, you know, they're accomplished now, major players in our game. But you say to them, well, what was the first day like? Well, they showed us where the closet was for the broom and the mop, and said, you're not touching no board. You're going to be cleaning the toilet bowls for a while. I love pre-Thanksgiving stories like this. It just brings it all home for us. Oh, this is great. Okay. So, you know, for those that don't know who Vince Lawrence is, he's another master of the game too. You look him up. He's done so many great records. I can't even begin to say
yeah, and he's killing it. He does jingle. He's got a company. They do jingles and commercials, all kind of stuff now. So Vince is always doing the thing. He just put out a documentary that they aired on WTTW, which like featured Tom and Marshall Jefferson and Captain Sky, and it was a really good documentary. But so Vince, he was like, "You're home. Let's get cracking on this house music." And so I started doing house music, and the first song I did was a song called "Funny Love," which was supposed to have been me as an artist, but then the guys in the band I was in, all of them, it's like, you're getting ready to put out an actual record? And I was like, yeah. And so they all came in the studio and they start playing and adding all this stuff to it. And basically, the record, in my opinion, kind of got a little messed up because everybody was trying to show how well they could play. And so the bass player was like playing stuff. They didn't really have a good feel for house music. and he's playing all this like R&B type of stuff on the song, and the keyboard player is trying to like, and it just got messed up, and I was just sitting there going like, how did I let this happen? They took over my whole session, you know, and it's so funny. And so Marshall was recording in the other room, and this is how me and him can work together on music. And he came and he tapped me on the shoulder.
What studio was this at?
Huh?
What studio was this at and where?
We were at CRC, which is one of the biggest at that time, one of the biggest studios in Chicago. They like a lot of the big artists worked there, and I couldn't believe like, wow, I'm actually in CRC recording. And so Marshall tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Hey, Byron," he said, "you know this music sucks, right?" And I looked at him like, I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah," but he goes, the melody and the lyrics are genius. He was like, the lyrics and the melody is incredible, but this music sucks, man. And I was sitting there because I didn't want to like diss the guys I was in the band with, but I was like saying to myself, they messed this whole session up. And then every time I got ready to say something, the guy from the record label, who was Larry Sherman kept telling me, "Well, you know, you're just a singer. Let those guys are the musicians. Let them." And I was like, "I'm just a singer." And I was like, okay. You know, but I had a vision for the song. And that's something that I've had to kind of fight with my whole life, is sometimes people do take it as you're just a singer. But even with the song Devotion, I'll get to the story of that. But Marshall told me, Marshall had out like, he did these tracks, the Virgo tracks and things like that were out at that time. And so he, I think Time Marches On, he had did it, but it wasn't out yet. And he was like, "Hey, would you come?" And he said, "I want to start writing songs, like actual songs. Would you come and be my songwriting partner?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so that's how me and him started writing together. And he was like, I would have took it from anybody else as an insult, but Marshall and we had that kind of relationship. It's like, even, I ain't gonna lie, when he brought me the song "Move Your Body," he let me hear "Move Your Body" when he did it. And he was like, "This is gonna be the biggest, I'm gonna call it the house anthem. It's gonna be here." Because when he gets excited, his voice gets high. His voice gets higher than mine when he gets excited. And I was like, that's kind of a bold statement. "This is going to be a song to help put house music on the map. Watch what I tell you." And I was like, and I'm going to tell you why I didn't think it would be, is because "Move Your Body" was very, very loose in the way it was produced. What I mean by that, you had Chic, and the Chic strings were like very tight, like everything was like very on the beat, very truncated, very. And the "Move Your Body" strings were like, It wasn't quite like right where, I mean, for somebody who, it wasn't quite like, it was like right, wasn't quite right, like on the beat like it should be. Things were just a little slightly, things were like, even the background, "Move your body." Some of the singers were behind the other, "Rock your body, move your body." It was like it wasn't like, so things were just, it was very loose with like but it was the looseness and the raw energy of it that made it what it was. And he understood that, you know, and at the time I didn't. And I was like, but when I went to the music box and Ron Hardy played it like 4 times in a row, I was like, oh my goodness, he was right. He's got something. But
he struck gold. He did strike gold. That was a golden goose, that track. That was a golden,
yeah,
boy. He got it right.
He definitely got it right.
He's yelling to the phone at me right now. He's like, "Yo, my voice ain't that high." He's yelling to the phone. I can see, "Yo, man, my voice ain't that high." Everybody, Marshall Jefferson is watching very carefully to this interview.
Yeah, but he was right. That was, and so we go back and forth about, you know, he was right about this, and then I've been right about some things, and you know, it was, you know, so we had that kind of like, but we had a thing where it's like, at least give me your honest opinion. and he knows I could be wrong, but he knows if he asks me something, I'm going to at least give him my honest opinion on it.
Would you mind if we take a quick second commercial break? Because we got to give our man Sal Cremona. You want to get a glass of water?
I don't mind
our man Sal Cremona from the Banger Podcast. A moment here I want to share. He's got a nice lineup this weekend. We're going to play it, the commercial. And he's, backing our show, and there's been some people sponsoring. Actually, we're becoming a real station, as crazy as this is. True House Stories. But check it out. Check out the commercial. Thanks. Everybody check out Sal Cremona's The Banger Podcast this weekend on Saturday night. The Banger Podcast. Share his show. We need to build this up while we're in COVID. This is our clubbing. This is our world. But now that we're back to Byron, and Byron's story is breathtaking, and Marshall's screaming through the phone as I thought he would be. the old hang. But I do remember when I did interview Marshall, I'll go back and defense of Marshall. Marshall said that you guys are tight and you're like brothers, hung out. So when you're that tight, you're allowed to break on each other. It's okay to be honest with each other, because that's what brother friendship is about, as much as you could be wrong. And sometimes you need that. We've all had it where we need to prove our brothers wrong, and it pushes us to do better. So go ahead.
No, but he proved a lot of people wrong, including the record label. They didn't even want to Move Your Body Out when he took it to him. And he actually paid money to get the song pressed up. And they were like, okay, And then they went to take some of their records down there to get played at the club, and they heard Move Your Body played and was like, oh my God. Then they turned around and pressed it up and put it out as Marshall Jefferson, when he wanted it to be On the House, his group, with Curtis and Rudy Forbes. So Marshall's a visionary. Like, even when we were working on our first 10 City album, we used to be sitting in the studio, and I still remember this. Marshall told me, like, man, 30 years from now, I'm going to be in England, and you can send me your vocal parts, and I'm going to be like through the computer, and I'm going to be able to do your vocal parts, put my keyboard, send it back to you. You're going to put more backgrounds on. You can put the bass on and guitar. He said, we're going to be able to send each other like computer files, and we're going to be able to do music from different countries and different cities. He said this when we were working on our first album, and I was like, yeah, okay, Marshall.
Right.
Sounds
we all said that back then. We were like, what? We would like the biggest closest thing we had was that telephone thing that was Quincy Jones was using, but that was like you had to be a millionaire to have that technology. We weren't.
Yeah, he used to watch Star Trek, and he was all into sci-fi, and I was like, hey, my man, leave that sci-fi alone, man. You watching too much sci-fi. And he was like, no, man, all the stuff on Star Trek is going to be happening about 30 years from now. We'll be in our 50s, man, and we don't. And so what's so ironic is we just did an album, and he was in England the whole time. He did his parts. I did my parts in Chicago. My background singer was in LA. He would lay his parts. I would lay parts. The bass player was in Florida. People were all over. The strings got recorded in Virginia. My buddy Martin Bloxon did the strings in Virginia. And I mean, people, so it was like getting done. We had other guys like Robert Bruce from The Who. He was in England doing overdubs and stuff. It was just all the things Marshall said we would be doing like 30 years ago. We just did an album now using all the technology, he said. So,
wow, that's visionary when you have that in that foresight. That's incredible. But let's be
and I hope, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
And even when he worked on music, he was one of the first people. He had a sequencer and he used to play things on all the white keys or on different chords. He would play something in one key and play the other line in another key. And he would sit there on this little computer screen. It was about this big, and he would be looking at it, and he'd be twisting the knobs and turning things and truncating and speeding stuff up and slowing stuff down. And, you know, you almost would be sitting there like, hey, Marshall, you know, those two keys don't go together. And one minute. And he hit a button, and then everything would be in the same key and in the certain timing. And it's like, you actually heard that in your head, but he's really smart mathematically, you know, even more so than I don't want to, but even more so than musically, he's probably like a mathematical genius. And he put music together like it was some type of math puzzle or math formula or something. And just watch. I never seen anybody do that until I watched him actually do that. And his brain works very differently from a lot of people.
So working with Vince Lawrence and a whole bunch of session players, and then jumping into the Marshall world was night and day, from what I understand.
It was totally night and day. So Marshall, like if you have somebody who paints beautiful pictures and things like that, Marshall paints in a very abstract way that the average person would not get or understand if you watch him go through the process.
But the end result is pure bliss.
Yeah, it can be. When Marshall is on, he's on. When he's got his confidence and when he's got in his rhythm, and you can see it in the studio. When he's really doing something in this, he's got a certain like little bop he does when he's sitting at where he bounces. Where he's got this certain bounce, you go, oh yeah, he's got one.
So what's the first song that you guys gather together and he calls you, yo, Byron, like, you know how I always call you when we're doing records, yo, man, I got something for you. My voice goes high too. And you always make fun of me too, but give me the Marshall side. So Marshall calls you, what's the deal to that first record that happens?
He called me about this song called, he had a song called Just a Little Bit, and we did that. And it was, and he was excited about it. And we thought it was a good song. It wound up on a label in England called Jack Tracks. It got licensed by Trax Records, unknowing to me, but I didn't care. Honestly, like a lot of people, they were looking to get paid from putting out stuff with different labels in Chicago. I didn't look at it like that at all. I looked at it all like it was a calling card. It was something out. It was something that was creating a name for myself. And I wasn't looking at it like that was my opportunity to make money when I did some of those early records, like did that. And then did a song called Can't Stay Away for Bright Star Dance Mania label, Ray Barney, who's just like one of the greatest guys you could ever meet. And Ray Barney, I worked for him. A lot of people don't know this. He had a record distributorship, and they were a record one-stop. And so a lot of the early house records, I worked for Ray Barney.
Whoa. I know what one-stop means. I know what it means, but we got a lot of people who do not know this old system that we know. So you got to break down with a one-stop and all that and define that, you know.